We have, tonight is the March 13th Ahrb meeting. The first item on the agenda is 51 Grandview Avenue. I think we have a drawing. Do we have the applicant here? No. We will put them to the bottom of the list and come back at the end of the meeting. Next on the list is 75 Main Street.
Good evening. Charles Ahrb, the architect from 75 Main, Shortwalk Flat. I guess this evening, in terms of presentation, you've all received our sort of full submittal last Wednesday, all the items on the checklist. So really all I wanted to run through this evening on the screen is just to point out some various miscellaneous changes to the design since the last time you saw it. So let's just go quickly through those. These are our usual reference slides of the neighborhood and the context. There really haven't been, these basically match the plans that you have in your full submittal, so this is sort of for reference. Talk the elevations briefly, but I want to go to the perspectives to point out the changes. This is our view, kind of approaching from Main Street. It's roughly basically the same, of course, in terms of massing. So, in this view, you can see just several changes since last, I guess, the February 27th presentation. The first one is just the window types. We've been kind of working towards finding a window that has some of the kind of gridded feel of the old warehouse building. The previous version had additional divisions. There were a lot of much smaller panes. We also showed an alternate which had 4 horizontal panes per window. So we've gone to one that kind of lightens it up a little bit. It's still kind of a loft-like window, but also more residential. So it seemed to kind of pull this together more in our eyes. The second thing I want to point out is in terms of color. Previous version, we were kind of working with a supplier, a company called Shildan. We're looking at another company called Terrial. And so the colors have changed slightly, but also we've gone to a slightly cooler gray. I think the previous version was getting to be kind of a gray brown color, and it was warm, but a little bit too warm, I guess, in our opinion. The windows we've made black, which is both, of course, a very traditional color and a very contemporary color, and I think gives kind of clarity. We were working with a Geldwen gray last time. We're looking at Marvin, so it's one of these in an effort to kind of simplify and the design. I think because of a little more crispness. The third thing to point out is the garage entrance. And looking more closely, over the last couple of times we had it sort of combined with the existing garage entrance, which we're filling in, and looking more closely at what had been approved for the zoning. And the exact location of our curb cut is basically, the eastern edge, I should say, of our curb cut is exactly where we've placed the eastern edge of our door. So given that that was what had been approved as part of that process, we felt we needed to move the garage door. Another item then to point out, minor, but significant, is the addition of some light fixtures. These would be per the town regulations, simple kind of cylinders with visors, so that there would be no visible light source, but it's really, of course, to sort of light the terrace spaces. That's the main issues on that view. And then just another view looking back up the hill slightly. And then here from the corner, really the main thing here was, as we work with the different dimensions of these sort of bays on the side and trying to establish a relationship around the corner and repeat them, we've ended up increasing the dimensions of this sort of portal around each of these window bays, if you will, and decreasing the amount of glass by about 4 feet or so for each of them.
So the terracotta band on the right, which is two bays of terracotta module, is increased from what to what? So if I'm looking at that elevation, the short elevation, on the right and left side of the window, you have approximately what dimension?
It's 5.5 feet or so. In other words, it's roughly 34 overall. This half of the building, minus the little reveal. 20 feet of glass. I think it's about 22 feet when you count all the various structure and lines. So that's 12 feet divided by 2. It's roughly 6 feet. It's similar.
Yeah, is that
to
really
what
the
we
same
have.
as you turn the corner? So the
Similar.
area between the windows on the chestnut facade is what?
It's roughly the same. I think it's about, these are about 5'7", something like that, if I recall. So it's close.
So
It's
is there
not
a terracotta
exactly.
module that you're working with?
No, I mean, it's sort of, since we have, at the end, relatively few pieces, you know, the window bays are slightly wider than piers, you know, and we kind of went back and forth and it gave a better proportion. So you see we have 2 divisions there, 2 divisions where the windows are. Those panels are just slightly wider than the pier panels. And then this, you know, this is sort of the result of just combining 3 of those together. So I'd say they're close, but they're not exactly.
Do you know if that dimension is a set or?
Probably.
Yeah, I wanna get to some, I mean, if it's, I wanna see how disparate it is if it.
But anyway, that was, you know, the impetus too was that it was getting to be more of a kind of a strip or ribbon window and to sort of bring it back, the overall proportions of this aperture here, with the trellis to be, you know, more square, in keeping with some of the other proportions down here. And again, to introduce more wall and reduce the amount of window. I think there we also did a minor change in the gable to simplify that slightly, and then here's just a kind of overall view of the whole complex. You can see the relationships of the window repetitions and roofs and so forth as a whole, rather than just in the eye-level views. But I think those were all the changes that I can remember, so I believe that's it. But this is reflected in what you're seeing, so these are not changes since Wednesday, but just since the last.
Do you have a photo on you have a photo montage? In other words, you have this rendering plugged into a photo from the street?
I have not yet.
I saw the photo street. Yeah, just curious if they had taken
Right, this would be sort of a
Right.
possible angle, I guess. This would be.
Yeah, nothing plugged in.
Materials for the Oceana, and then the materials on both rooms are the same, in terms of what, just from when you go back to one of those renderings, they look like the same color and tone, I don't know if they're the same material. Or go back to slides,
The grade kind of
it's
change?
gray,
Yeah,
the roof, two roofs,
I think it might be just a shadow.
it just looks similar, I don't know if that's intentional.
Which, I'm sorry, which,
The existing roof on the taller building, on the taller side versus the shorter.
We want to let it go.
we
Yeah.
want to attempt to mention as close as possible.
It looks the same when you look at everything, I just wanted to know if there's any thought to the difference in material. It's just the same type.
Same here. And we want it to look as close as we can.
This is metal, what's the material
It's
on the metal?
it's a metal roof.
Standing seam.
They'll both be standing seam metal?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, the existing one is standing seam, we can use the same. You know, actual dimensions or, some of the
Of course,
details
yeah,
might be the
just
same,
in
but.
terms of color match.
Right, the goal is to, sort of echo the roof of the Oceana building and the new building.
Can you go back to the slide showing the garage door? I'm sorry, are you,
That was,
do you
that
have
was the
more,
last.
you wanna go to that last slide?
That was the last slide.
So we can, you mentioned a curb cut.
Mhm.
When I look at the elevation, I see these three, vertical bands of brick that kind of, for lack of a better word, the sort of pilaster or whatever you want to call it. Between the window and the garage door and the large picture window, and then the picture window or whatever direction you go in.
Okay.
Why not take that garage door, and the next window and work out a module that relates either back to the smaller windows or a module that relates to the brick infill between the openings? You said it had to do with the curb cut, but,
Right.
I think
Parking spaces.
It's working within the approved curb.
if you would like to comment, just go up to the mic, state your name.
Ed Laird for the applicant. The location of the garage door falls within the approved location of the curb cut for the site plan approval.
So, but it would be nice to sort of center it more equally.
Is that an existing curb cut?
It's
No.
No, it's a curb cut that's been approved as part of the package.
Site plan.
Site plan approval.
Closer to the corner with raised issues.
Closer to the corner, yeah, but we're talking about the other direction, right? The other direction would help that there seems, I don't know, how many bricks between the window and the opening to the garage door?
Here? I'm
Yeah.
not sure.
These are important questions for us, and this is part of the reason why the last time we met, I said, it's better for you to come with a more complete set, with all these things shown, all these things sort of worked out, so that we could get into them. We're gonna talk about them now, but having this kind of information dimensions, I mean, we can scale things on the fly, but it helps to have these things, because this is the level of detail that we're all gonna address this in. And I think these things matter. But Ed, do we have any, is there anything that would prevent us from recommending we move that curb cut further up Chestnut towards closer to Main? So, I mean, is there anything that
I
would
don't
prevent
think
us
it's a
doing?
problem if we don't change the number of street parking and loading zone.
It's a question. I don't know how this affects street parking. I don't know how it affects the internal parking, but I think, we're not talking about moving it 12 feet. We're talking about moving it so that you get a, sort of better rhythm on the street of those open.
So these ended up being just more equal.
Well, looking at the plan, the entrance is sort of edged with one parking space, so it's either stays there or it moves a whole parking space towards Main Street. You flip the parking space over to the other side.
Or you put the accessible parking space there, or, maybe you don't need the same amount of room. I don't know. Maybe there's some ways in which you can.
I mean, I think it could probably be worked out on the inside. I mean, we've had it, right up against this opening to make one larger opening, but again,
Are the existing smaller windows equally spaced? The existing openings, they are?
yes.
Well,
They are.
yeah, I think we're just going over some possibilities of how to treat that. I think that, in a minute or two, there's a couple that occur to us. I'm sure you can find a solution.
Yeah, I mean,
Where you don't lose parking, we don't
I'm
lose
not
street
concerned about
parking.
the interior because what happens is that one spot just flips from one side to the other. It's really a question of design. We had it kind of combined for a while with this opening and so forth. I'd prefer it to be more equally spaced at least.
That's what we're talking about.
That's not a problem, I don't think, inside. It's really a question of what's been approved and we're trying to not violate what's been.
Yeah, no, I understand, and I think if it was going in a direction that we thought could present problems in terms of cars exiting and safety about the corner, we wouldn't be talking about it, but I think moving it the direction we're discussing helps to some degree, move it further away from the corner. So I think it's something we can look at.
What is the function of the large faux window at the closest to the building entry?
Existing opening?
That's the current
Just an existing
opening
opening, I think.
into the, so rather than
If the.
bricking it up, the other thing about it is, we wanted to have it be a nice feature with some detail and perhaps backlit, because it's also, since the actual entrance to the building is recessed, as you approach it from, I think, either direction, it's sort of one of the first things you see as you look towards the entrance. So I felt it was important to have some detail and, be a kind of feature and not be simply sort of blocked up.
So if that's the existing opening, is there a curb cut already there adjacent to it that supports that opening?
I believe there is, yeah. I think it's been reworked as part of the site plan revision.
I'm just wondering why you would consider using that existing opening and create an translucent garage door that mimics exactly what you're trying to do with that, and utilize the door as the glowing panel.
Well, I guess, I had thought a little bit about that a while back, and I would say that one of the things I was concerned about was that at that point, then the automobile traffic starts to get very close to the entrance. I mean, I was imagining a situation where somebody might be dropping someone off or pulling up in a cab or something, and be blocking the entrance, or people coming around the corner and suddenly there's a car there. So I guess I prefer, for kind of function and safety reasons, to have them be a little bit more separate. I mean, I agree, it's kind of definitely cleaner, you keep an extra garage window, and it would be very minimal intervention, no doubt. It makes me a little nervous in a way to think about proposing that.
Have you thought about treating the existing large opening with making it the similar size to the existing windows with just a window, considering it doesn't serve any other purpose?
Well, again, the issue is, since it's already there as an opening, rather than to kind of block it up more, and then you're back to the question of, do you try to match the brick, and how do you do that? It just seemed cleaner to make it
That could be
its
tough.
own element, and again, as I said, it sort of reads as a kind of lantern or focal point that is a little more expansive, you know, since it is part of the entrance.
Is there a certain type of glazing there, where people are gonna be able to stare, go look directly into the garage? I know it's reflective here.
It would be translucent
Be
glass, sort of,
translucent.
frosted glass over it.
There's also the issue of the height of the floor inside, because we were dropping that. So the garage door moves down, so that works.
So translucent, so that window is translucent, are you gonna treat the others in the garage the same way, is that what I'm seeing?
Yes.
Okay. And so what degree would that be, will those glow? I assume there will be lighting on in the parking garage
Right.
all the time.
Right.
Do you have a,
Soft glow.
can you show us what that might look like?
In terms of the glass
The
sample?
type of glass.
Glass, no.
I'm not so concerned about the, I think keeping the opening seems the right move to me, just because you've got the opening there, the lintel's existing, it's part of the sort of.
The brick would be hard to match.
opening, And then the brick is gonna be, I mean, we're already doing some repair issues, so I'm less worried about that.
My comment, I mean,
Grab the mic.
part by applicant, just added value here, I mean, we are taking the back section of the building off and making it bigger in the back, so given that we're repointing, we can use the existing brick from the rear and use it on the front, so with the repointing, it would blend in, if that's a concern. We do have the brick to make it look like not a block and patch.
Okay, good to
So,
know.
I'm just saying, I mean, for us right now, is that we have an elevation drop here, and we're looking to drop the slab interior to accommodate, we're thinking about lifts. So we have to drop the slab to accommodate more parking, and by having it up here, you'll have an incline when you go into the garage. So that's why it'd be added value for us to have it a little further down.
Can I just ask why you guys eliminated the granite watermark at the base?
Yes, that was the other change.
Because there was some comment here in that the brick was in good shape in the rear building, and we did an assessment, and it seems okay with repointing it, it should be fine, so. But again, it's something that we can put back in if you feel it's a better look.
That was, the original intent of that was to mask the kind of damage to the brick. And, but
Yeah, I think I asked you to do that, I asked you to look into it and keep it if it was
It's in good
workable.
shape, not,
And then we would then entertain a different strategy if
Right.
it wasn't, so that's
that's what we did.
Alright, so a few comments on my end.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I was just starting at the bottom, we're gonna work our way.
it's taking notes.
To the comment of the water base, I think if you manage to salvage what it is, I think it looks better. You mentioned that you wanted to simplify, and I agree, it's a good strategy for this proposal. In general terms, we are heading in the right direction. We just said in a few meetings ago. I agree with the comment that the strategy to work out the entry to the garage still needs work. And I am personally convinced that I will use the existing one, just do a window on the other one. I don't think it's such a risky issue of traffic or heat, I don't think might be, maybe not. Visually it's much better, and the reason it's much better is because it's easier to, and I'm referring to the elevation page. You have this in the slides? what you decided to propose upstairs is such a classical way of composing, you can say, even, you know, someone mentioned neoclassical. This is a neoclassical proposal. So to break it down and to not respect the strength of the proposal, I think it's an one, two, three, four, and this really doesn't match with this, and if you simplify it, you need to work with the parameters that you propose to make it consistent. Right. So that's one argument. The other argument would be due to the simplification of the window typologies. In my view, there are too many. Not only because you start with your building that has already a nice ensemble of you come in with a we call it industrial era proposal here, end of the century architecture. You think they're good, and then they come in with the beginning of the century with a new proposal. That's what it does, and then they have a 90s, 50s base or like 40s, I don't know what it was, with a very clear typology of windows that you don't have to respect, but it's, and then you bring another. It's another layer of 6, 7 types of windows, typologies of windows.
Each one has their own window.
It might be, yes, but it may be too much of the seventh one, which is the strongest. So I think that the fenestration is already, we agree on, it's fine. The massing is already in place, we agree it's fine.
We can, I mean, we could take a unit from the side, and we can, if we wanna take, remove the garage. If we leave the garage entrance where it is, and from the back of the building, we take the exact same window, and we move it to the front, to the right of the garage, so it looks exactly like the window to the left.
Say it again.
Okay. So, I think your concern is this stationary window on the right side of the garage as being.
No, it's not any one element. I think there's two things we're talking about. One is that a rhythm be established at the base
Right.
with the various openings that may be as simple as moving the garage door up the hill on Chestnut, some amount.
Well, we have a concern with the elevation because we need to make accommodation for the lift because we have a height requirement, so to keep all the parts and pieces together, if by moving it up, there's gonna be a ramp going into the garage.
But do you know that it doesn't work if
I
we're
know
moving
it
it?
doesn't work.
I don't know, what are we talking about, a foot?
We're talking about moving it up, we can look at the elevation drop, but we're talking about dropping the garage slab 2 feet. So,
Almost six.
You say that, you see, the elevation here.
Almost seven, six.
there's a slope on it. It's gotta be at least 6, 8 inches.
About 16 inches. Because you bump it like this.
Right here.
One is the, it says you're only on a foot and a half. 107.6, you're at 108 here at the main entry. Then you're going down to 106 at this, so 107.6 is your ground floor, what would I read that as?
You're dropping to 105.
We're dropping,
Okay.
yes, not reflected on that plan. We drop it down, we drop it down, so we can put
Well, we work in, we're working, I think that the reason is we're taking so much time and care on the building because it deserves the extra attention. And we are very good.
But if we were able to move we still had a new entrance, we moved it
This is
closer
just,
to the.
this is one of the requirements that they made, my most, my biggest concern is the typology of wind. I would want you to say that this area is glazing in your frame.
Right.
Too much drawing to compete with this. Move against this one, which is double high. I think it needs, the fenestration is good. I mean, the rough openings are acceptable. Now we're talking about the typology.
Bringing one up from the back is like another solving thing, and this one seems placed right. I think that it's the two piers adjacent to the garage door. Odd. And do you want these three pieces to be equal?
Yeah, that's certainly fine with me.
That's a
It's
bit-
more a question of what's been, previously approved and what the
Understood,
procedures
yeah.
are for I have no objection to making it look better, I have no disagreement on that. I mean, with respect to the comment on the fenestration, in the new building, it's an attempt to sort of, engage the older one.
When I say fenestration, I mean the rough openings, the size, the proportions of the
Right.
rough openings. Now, when I took a typology of windows,
Right.
I'm talking about how we treat the windows, the division. Because, for example, this is a typical double line, same
Right.
window. Two over two or whatever it is, and this becomes something else, and this is something else, and this is something else. Forget about what is already been established in the shop. So, in terms of simplification, I would like recommend, I suggest, whatever word I would use, to give it another round of thought, and in favor of simplification of that. There is a lot of beginning of the century architecture which is with works with the fenestration and sort of window divisions, even if you on the vertical side, will even be more in regard to the proportions. That's an opinion.
Sort of more of a direct relationship to one or the other rather than.
It happens to be that these proportions that you're using are very similar to this one.
Mhm.
And even if you, I don't know, did you try do the,
I think you had that.
you had one previously? This one?
Yeah, that one previously.
This one, set in here, like the division of.
Really well, maybe way back when we looked at we did look, interim had a double hung, like literally the same window, which is not.
Don't
right.
change what you have.
Mhm.
Just saying, the fenestration stays. Okay, besides this issue that, is present out here,
Right.
this is the very high. I don't see it's a problem. The last comment I will make is it has to do with, but again, if you disagree, and is the location of the glazing or the facade. It has to be closer to the edge or not closer. It's not, I'm not convinced by the drawing. In other words, if you have this, right, and now which you break it, you broke it this,
Mhm.
and you have the point of changing materials here.
Right.
I don't know, I'm not sure if this glass has to be here.
I'm not following, can you just describe that so that we can get
I'm trying to, for you to understand, and I'll try to describe it. The location of the front facade of the entryway, if it's closer to the articulation of the brick and the new material, or by bringing the material, not to be compliant with the brick.
Can you look at the perspective, and so you're talking about that storefront system or
Yeah.
curtain wall system, whatever it is, bringing the plane of
There's
that.
another view that, down the street.
The
Keep
next
going,
one.
keep going.
Looks like
I
this
saw
one.
it before.
The other ones are all looking the other way. This is the one. So you're talking about this, so return the brick, to the edge of the window. I wanted to bring the mass of the building down to the ground, and then you've got a couple of feet.
There it is. So this is a better view that shows exactly where.
Oh, I see. Oh, yes, that's interesting. That's a strange problem.
So we've kind of imagined salvaging some of the bricks that were demolished here to, and removed in this section to extend the wall around the corner and match the cornice, and then bring the building down and then set the glass back.
No.
You're saying kind of you prefer, I think to bring it out, if anything, maybe back further in, but that's an interior question as to the, you know.
It's a solid thing, that's why I
Yeah.
propose to you to, you know, it's a,
I think the massing is right. I think it's the step back in the curtain wall system makes sense,
yeah.
relating the two buildings to one another, which hierarchically is the more valuable question, and then sort of working your way down. I agree that the change in plane from the brick to the terracotta, which happens along the face of the new construction, on that facade, those three things coming together.
In the same plane.
Yeah, I mean, they're not, I don't think they're resolved well.
Yeah.
I would either just continue the brick base in, or, I don't know, some other solution.
Just pushing the product inside the lobby, like,
Yeah, but you can't do that without moving the plane of the glass curtain wall. Right, if you,
Once you get to the curtain, what's the material in the interior? Does that maintain the exterior?
So now is to reuse the same material, it's not been completely resolved. I mean, there's an effect where the wall passes behind the glass and you get
Nice,
to
right? You
see.
carry through that
Right,
finish.
you get to
It's
see
all
it.
If you actually carry the brick through, even through the curtain wall,
Yeah.
would you do that?
well, that,
To carry the brick, well, again, I mean, again, in my opinion, there's a cleanness to having this little bit of storefront or curtain wall against one material and not having a horizontal break, which would occur at an odd place, you know. Does that make sense? Like to have,
makes
No, I see that you actually have a break shown even in your plan, right? That's what that is.
what happens is it turns the corner and then, at the moment I actually have the drain pipe coming down in a reveal between
Yeah.
the brick.
Is that-
There's a recess
That's
and the metal
fine.
panel, and then you come back. The terracotta typically will have a metal detail at the end, because we don't have any mitered corners on the terracotta. So it's hard to see because it's behind the drain pipe, but basically the drain pipe sits in front of a metal panel. So coming from the side, the terracotta will have a joint that it kind of butts into flush with the panel. And then from the other side around the corner, it does the same thing. Does that make sense? So there's always some sort of articulation here. There's sort of a full height piece of metal that would go from the ground all the way up to the eave. And then there would be a reveal between these two materials. And then as you move in,
yeah, that's my argument, I don't think they can read this in that. I'm just saying it's very subtle move. That is, just to bring this, okay, now that this is not co-planner, you still have the review, right? Yes. Then you bring this, I don't know how much. Maybe it's a small one, it's a corner, I don't know.
right, it's time for us to keep this and cut this back.
It's almost transparent.
The idea of bringing down the terracotta down is strong, the location of this, I'll trust your instinct, whatever you say is good.
Mhm.
Just looking for you, whatever works.
So the reveal sort of swallows that corner.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we have three different materials on the same plane, almost on the same plane. This one, the wall is gonna, cut the terracotta and whatever the interior is. So when you're walking down that side, and you pull up in the view, you will see these three materials almost on the same plane. So if you can come back with some. If you can
I haven't
address-
tested it, so.
It's an interesting drawing.
Yeah.
I mean, there aren't that many options, right? There's a change in plan. There's a there's, there's a change to the material, in which you bring one in or you don't, or you know, some other combination.
Right.
And then I guess there's a potential change in the tectonic between those three different materials, or any two given.
Right.
So,
And certainly that, look at that. I was, like I said, I'm not, I like the idea still of the building coming to the ground.
The building coming to the ground.
And so,
The building to the ground
the
is.
flush or the,
The image that you're showing us here is convincing, the building is coming to the ground. The problem is, when it makes it planar with a brick, it makes it kind of cartoonish.
right.
It's like a bidimensional. It's like, you decided to move the build, to set back the quarter from, around the arch. So there is this shift, massive, that is happening. And it cannot be the most critical point, which is the entrance and the joint of this massive building. But again, sure.
now's the time.
I was just commenting on the storefront or the glass curtain wall itself, and it doesn't necessarily have any relation mullion-wise or alignment to any other of the building elements. So, I don't know, the storefront, I don't know if that was intentional, or if it was just because it works within the system that you guys are thinking of. That could very well be if it's a pre-engineered
Well,
system
it's
in terms
based
of
on,
lighting.
actually, it's simple, it's very simple, it's sort of based on the module of the double entry doors, which then get repeated, and then there's the smaller
Jumps up from there.
panel in between, which gives you a little bit of room on either side of the doors.
Does the large mullion at the top that align with the trellis at all? If you look at if you just look at the elevation.
That's really close.
This panel here?
Yeah, is that aligned to the?
It actually would, because the bottom of the trellis is at the bottom of the ceiling, basically, the bottom of the
So
floor
it has
line.
the same,
And that is the floor line, so the bottom would align.
I just wanna,
Very close.
I understand why the canopy would be where it was in terms of proximity to the door.
Plus or minus, finally engineering the actual connection of the trellis.
While we're over there, wouldn't the skylights that are up on the, where do those look down into? Those look down into the bedroom?
No, double height space.
The skylights here
Yeah, it's a double height space to somewhere.
The
It
living
is
room.
So, on the western side, there's a larger double volume space that goes
Right.
into, but we're trying to, at least claim a smaller one, for
I'm
these.
just making sure the person on the balcony sitting in the ocean really can't look down into somebody's bedroom.
And some, they, have
That's a new thing.
shades and, like, it has to be like,
No, no,
right, so you wouldn't want somebody to look straight down.
It's
This
just
one
when
is
you look at
further
it,
over.
But it's in
looking
the
down
living
into
space.
someone's living space, so it's not, I mean, I
It's a
get
living
that they're gonna be out looking at the view, but they're gonna be directly into somebody's living room when they look down, which
Right.
is something to think about when you're talking about
Right,
interior.
we need to, it's more just to have a sense of, some more light coming into the space, it's not really a critical element, but it would be part of the double volume. But you're right, we'd certainly screen it off.
I'm on the other side of the watermark, and just my personal opinion.
Mine too.
I think they had it in previous renderings, so it's.
that I remember the prior version that we, Mark brought in with Ahrb, he used the U glass, the U chain.
Sure, yeah.
That was very successful at that, for that presentation. I don't know if that's what you want to do here, but it has this anonymous character with pattern, but it kind of distracts you.
Right, it's rid of the.
It's like, I think it's Hidden Hall Pratt Institute.
Sure. Yeah, I'm actually using it on most documents. It's not an inexpensive material, so you have to defer. But I like the material, so I agree.
No, but you're saying it's,
Good idea.
what you're doing, it's not cheap either. So the differential might be worth considering.
But would that work here? I mean, because this geometrically, there's you see we have this step and then there's a little section and the page after this, there's a terrace there.
Right.
Yeah.
It's gonna be
I mean,
one-
I don't know if the purity of that is more valuable with the pure form, but, I don't know, so I don't know.
The issue is that at the ground floor, I think we want more transparency, and then it's true that at the terrace, so you have one floor of it, so you wouldn't have vertical
I
contact.
was referring to it because the pattern is so rhythmic that disappears. In this case,
But what's problematic, what I think what all of us are reacting to is actually not this view, because that thing relates quite well to the new structure. But if you turn your view this way and you look the other way, there's a way in which the horizontals of the storefront system don't relate to the openings on the Oceana building. And so, in one way, what you're discussing would resolve that problem, but in another, you see the relationship
Yeah,
of
that's it.
the window in the corner to the horizontal band. I don't know if there's a way to, given the floor heights, to resolve that, because putting the glass in front doesn't fix the fact that they're gonna put a structure for a floor at that level.
But you could have a frit pattern that fades in and out and creates obscurity and creates one big medallion of glass that forms the entry.
That's interesting.
And let the gas slide by and have a frit pattern start and stop and gradation. And you just get a clean glass face.
So to pick up that band?
Yeah,
The band,
pull the
hide the
floor
band, disguise the band.
Oh, you're saying to pull the glass out
Pull the glass
and not
forward.
de-emphasize the
Yeah.
glass.
Yeah, it's like a.
Right,
Like
just
a
read
curtain.
more, right, sort of panelized curtain wall rather than a kind of stacked storefront.
If that's a way that you think you can relate both sides of the building with that centerpiece, which, I think you're relating it well volumetrically. And actually the materials work well, it's just the intersection of the, trying to contend with the different window heights, different floor heights, getting it in.
The floor levels are all
So
different.
maybe there's something to be explored in one of these two or alternative.
So kind of a general concept of making it more kind of quote unquote monolithic or try to make it disappear as much as possible.
I think it's what we said before the presentation, is simplifying the proposal. There's already too much happening. I think if you bring elements that are minimal in character, for example, this one, I think it would be reinforce what you're proposing on the other side. Same goes by, one of my main concerns of visual problems is that for the garage door, it's not exactly the problem that the garage door is where you're proposing it, is that there are like three types of, and three with different proportions on this door, and the window. The modulation of the grid is an enlarged version of this, but still not the colloquial with each other. This one too.
I mean, the to the ground openings could be of a kind, and then the others are obviously already of a kind. I don't know they all have to match, but they, that they either complement one another, or there's a technology for the grid here, and there's, the existing technology for the grid.
I think there has to be harmonious in a way, and it's not.
So you're sort of advocating for the garage door to have?
Not to have glass,
No.
but that either the way in which the grid is developed, and what this is a metal panel, or, yeah, I mean, and is this a custom door?
I would assume.
Ostensibly, so that module is in your hands the same way this window is, so, I think,
Sure.
I think there's an argument, again, for simplification.
Not a problem.
Yeah, a couple last little things. This pergola, or the overhang piece, is, the front face of it is a C channel.
Mhm.
And then as you turn the corner, this is just a flush face. Okay, so the tube, and then it's welded and painted.
Will we carry the C channel?
Just to differentiate.
No.
Right?
Yeah, no, I'm just,
Just as a, trying to, kind of, the wood kind of on the inset, instead it, kind of a reveal, or, where you would have some type of a plug or blocking to set the wood off from the metal frame and have it, just set inside, its dimensions slightly less.
so looking down or looking up, you have a tube, a C tube, and then held off with the rod and
Right, so there'd be
the
a
pin
plate,
hinge.
yeah. Mhm.
And then inside you have lined with the wood,
Right.
and that wood is, teak or something like that.
Epay.
Some epay. And so you have a round, and then you have intermediary beams, so to speak.
Yeah, it shows in the plans,
It is.
in the, just looking at the views of it, kind of looking down from the roof line and so forth.
It's on the front, okay. Yeah.
And then on
And
the
this
west
is an
side.
integral sconce fixture that we're looking at.
Can I ask what the bench looks like at the back too, where the seating is at the back of the property?
I'm
Do
sorry?
we know, what the bench is gonna look like at the
Not
back?
specified. The bench.
Something to think about.
This is the box, right? It's got, it's planter. With planter.
Yeah, so as shown in the planter on the front, we would like it to be metal. And then on the inside, so basically it's sort of trying to replicate that painted metal, so as sort of a cornice on top of the cornice. And behind it, I don't know, probably some prefabricated metal units, and then below it, I showed as wood. I'm just trying to think what it looks like from the inside of the apartments as you look out towards it.
Yeah, I mean, that's very nice to have the wrap here, and the wrap up there, sort of.
Right, it kind of echoes to wood and warms it up a little bit. So that's more, from the inside out.
Okay, I know there are a number of neighbors here today, and we have still a full agenda, so I'm gonna, if there are any comments from the audience, I'll take a few now.
Street. I'm not gonna bring up a brand-new item, but getting back to the resolution that was approved by the Board of Trustees, I would note that this application was for the adaptive reuse and expansion of the 75 Main Street building on the single tax parcel. On page 5 of the resolution, it describes that this was an approved addition to the existing 75 Main Street building on top of the warehouse. Nowhere does the resolution suggest, approve, nor otherwise allow for the construction of a separate or ancillary building on the lot. Since the code suggests that even a shed be finished with similar siding to the main building on a property, how would the AHRB justify this proposal as being part of the same building? I did notice that there were instances in this meeting where both the applicant and the board referred to this as a new building. Is there a reconciliation there?
Is this a rhetorical question?
No, it's, again, this to the public who watched through this for a year, really, through the process, the entire process, before it came to this board, until the last couple of months, the iterations of that new building / addition, depending on whether you're looking at it now or whether you're looking at the approval, looked much more similar to the Oceana building. And the questions were, what was the architectural style of the Oceana building supposed to look like, whether that was supposed to be converted back to its original style, or whether the current style that it was changed to that's more similar to the rest of Main Street.
Yeah, I get it.
And
we've
this
read the
is still
resolution.
75 Main Street.
Thank you. We've read the resolution, and we've heard this kind of criticism numerous times. And I haven't addressed it directly because we hadn't gotten this far along. But I think maybe it deserves to be addressed at this point, because I think maybe yourself and some other members of the community have a very different opinion about how to add to a historically significant building. And the people on this board, and I think the people in the historic preservation community, the groups that I work with in New York, the groups that all of us work with to some degree in various parts of the state and the country, have a very different opinion about how to add to a historically significant building. And we could read from what some of these groups have to say about this and what the sort of preferred accepted approach is, or you can do your own research, but it differs from what your opinion of this building should be, and that's, we're happy to hear that, and we have heard it from several people, but it's not the way that we interpret this. And the way we've interpreted this has been quite clear for some time now. We've been developing a scheme that is very clearly independent of the Oceana building in style, in character, in geometry. There are some nods to relating back to the building, but we have no desire to mock, to imitate, to try to replicate what that building is whatsoever, and we never have. So that should be abundantly clear at this point, and for some reason it's not, and we just keep addressing the same thing. But here's an interesting thing that Dickie brought to the meeting tonight, which is from the Secretary of the Interior Standards for Treatment of Historic Properties. So the most authoritative body on this subject in our country has this to say. New additions should be designed and constructed so that the character-defining features of the historic building are not radically changed, obscured, damaged, or destroyed in the process of rehabilitation. New design should always be clearly differentiated so that the addition does not appear to be part of a historic resource. And this very clearly meets that criteria. And not only do we agree with this, I mean, we have been working towards this openly for some time. So I don't, if anyone else has further comments of that nature, they're a moot point, because that's not how we treat historic buildings in this country and in this community. And if you don't like that, tough.
Okay, well, that's the
Thank you.
architectural point of it.
There are other comments, and I would
I-
like to hear
I
from
would
other
just-
people. Thank you, we heard your comment. Next, please.
Again, this isn't about the addition and the architectural differentiation between the addition and 75 Main Street. It's also about the reference to a new building. Because this was approved to be
Mr.
one
Merrill,
lot.
I heard your comment. Thank you very much. We're moving on.
Okay, thank you.
Ed Hennessy, Bellwood Avenue, a property owner down on Palisade Street, and a member of the church community in Lady of Pompeii. This iteration compared to the last one at the last meeting, which showed all windows across the back, is significantly better than the way it looks, because it looked like a factory facing the church. This doesn't, this has more of a residential look, which is what we're looking for. I guess the one question I had is the gray coloring of it is a concern. It doesn't seem to match the rest of the neighborhood, even though the building right next to it is gray. And I think on both sides, it's similar to be a gray. It just doesn't appear residential. That's my other concern. But I gotta say, this is a lot better. It's not a wall of windows, which they were before. And that's it.
Thank you. I think this raises an important issue, which is that we didn't look at materials today, and I think at a certain point, I think when we come to, we're coming to some kind of resolution on this building, I think it would be imperative for us, when we do come to vote about this, that we are looking at the actual materials, and I don't think it would be harmful to have some warmer gray options that could perhaps be a little more harmonious with what's happening up and down Palisade.
I would also suggest that we get high resolution images of the brickwork of the existing Oceana building and the garage, full scale or to scale, to put next to the proposed materials. So you can see them all in context.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. We need to know what that brick's gonna look like.
Yeah, and if you can put a board together, like a usual thing, of all the different components, it's always helpful. The windows, the terracotta, the brick, everything together, pretty easy to see. With the actual materials, something close to it.
We had that last meeting, but you're right, we need to bring it in.
Including the zinc of the Oceana building roof, the existing, same, so
Yeah.
you compare all pieces.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hello, Vicki Jones, 55 Grandview Avenue, Dobbsbury, New York. I just want to talk about just 2 points here. One is I wanted to refer to the resolution, where the resolution discussed the fact that this proposed project complies with the vision plan and the Old Town District. What concerns me is that the building, I appreciate the fact that the applicant has diminished the mass. But when you look at the building compared to the rest of the buildings on the street, and looking at a streetscape, it does not represent anything that's of an old town experience or an old town feel. It's a beautiful building, but it's not, in my opinion, part of that neighborhood. And I think that it's an important thing for the Architectural Review Board to continue those elements of old Victorians, small craftsman homes. I mean, I realize you can't plop one of those down on top of it, but the elements of this building do not match anything within a mile, a half a mile, maybe up to Broadway, the new building on Broadway. It's not something that is continuous with our community. Pardon me?
Look at the street. It is the wall.
Did you want? I pushed the wrong button here.
Oh, no, we did that.
Very sardonic to me.
Anyhow, you're looking at one street. You look at it going down Palisade Street.
That's not our street.
And I know.
Come on,
You-
I mean, you know, this is what we were just talking about a few minutes ago.
All right, I know, Michael, and I respect
This building needs to
that.
relate to the building which it's attached to. That is a
Michael,
very-
I'm not part of this process. I was, hanging out at my house until the town blew up, And it's like, this one building here, I'll give you this piece of paper, I think is representative of the first application that was put forward to the planning board. And at least that particular building had bricks, it had mullions, and it seemed to me to be carrying some of the same features. I mean, this building doesn't, I understand what you're saying, that that's what historic preservation is.
I saw that building, and when I saw it, I thought the applicant had lost his mind.
That's what I thought too when I
Yeah.
saw it on the Dobbs Ferry webpage.
This thing that was up there, that never made any sense to any of us.
Yeah, well, you were here at the very beginning before it went to the planning board. So anyhow, this is where we are today. I'm just saying it doesn't seem to comply with the residents, the rest of the streets. It might comply with the one side street looking at it, but it doesn't do the long street on the way to the train station. But that's only one thing. The other thing I just wanted to tell you, all the boards in Dobbs Ferry do what they want anyway, but, and I bless you for having the time to do this, but earlier you were talking about the garage door and perhaps moving the garage door and things like that. In the site plan, I was just flagging you to tell you that on page 8, it talks about that the blah, 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 village highway superintendent, village traffic consultant to ensure adequate sight lines. That's why the garage is parked there, is because of the sight lines coming out of the street across from it, the alleyway, and also coming around so that people would be able to see the cars. The traffic consultant, I think, is the one who dictated where that garage went.
Thank you for bringing that up.
You're
I will
welcome.
check in with them and make sure that what we're proposing doesn't cause any additional problems. And we were thinking of it from the corner of Palisade, but I forgot about that little side street. So
Yeah, and I think there's also
I
deliveries.
would also just like to clarify, we're talking about moving this about a foot.
Hey,
Perspective.
talk to the man, as
Yeah,
I'm
I
just
don't do-
telling you what I read in this little piece of paper here for what it's worth.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
It is a foot, 4.5 inches.
My name is Kevin Hartnett, 98 Palisade Street, and the owner of the property immediately on the north side of this. So throughout this process, I've noticed a lot of the focus has been at this view and the view across from the church. Is there a view from the north side?
Well, we have that drawing in our packet. We didn't see a view tonight.
And what materials are on the back side?
It's the same, it wraps around. But I think
And
maybe,
the trellises may be omitted. That's correct.
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, is there a front view, more of it, as opposed to the diagonal view here? Yeah, so as you can see, the wall runs straight up and down there. So how are they planning, it's almost like we're looking at part of something, not the complete picture. And I think to be fair, we really need to look at the complete picture before we make a decision.
very fair. And so we do, in our packet, we had, which is more extensive than the presentation, we did have that elevation, but I think just we can include that as a part of what we look at the next meeting. Anyone else? Yes, please.
Laura Pearson, 22 Palisade Street. I noticed there's no phone or electric wires. I wondered what the plan was for that.
Buried. That's what we should do. Put them underground.
The power cables run down Chestnut. I'm sure the service is coming off of there.
So there will be wires crisscrossing
There's
all of this?
existing wires.
Will this be an opportunity to bury them, or is that, can't do that?
Lenore, I have tried and tried and tried. You've seen the stuff on my house.
Oh, I know, I have
We
to.
can't stop them. Right now is
I'm
the right
trying
time
to
to be
calm
pushing
down.
it.
That, a debate for a different time.
Different
please.
time.
Yes,
All right.
thank you very much. Any other closing? No? Okay, I think we,
No, I think we're gonna-
yeah, we have one.
Quick question.
Fred Kearns, 126 Palisade Street. Has the setback changed in the back at all? The setback hasn't moved at all? Has it changed? Okay, that's my question. Thank you.
Okay, I think we had, you have, some work cut out for you. I think we have a clear direction. I think we are, thank you for putting together this big packet. I think there's some things that need to be addressed, some things that need to be added, some materials for us to look at. So we will do this again. And to that end, motion that we continue this to next hearing. Second? Okay, second? Okay, thank you. Just another note to the community, we are working with a historic preservationist who is informed us that she can no longer take on the work, and so we'll be finding a new person. And that will be part of our process for approval. 55 Livingstone Avenue. Someone here from Livingstone?
No, I'm gonna leave, so I'm sure you want me to, but before, while they're coming out, the wires thing is an opportunity right at this minute. They're gonna be digging up the street, putting new gas lines in, they're also talking about adding wires and poles on Main Street. We should be forcing them to put the wires underground. The planning board has adopted a resolution, actually they have a draft of the resolution. It should go to the board of trustees and we should be pushing this, those wires should be buried.
We tried when we did the gas lines.
Well, they haven't done the gas
Why
lines.
we didn't do it 5
They-
years ago?
They haven't, they're gonna do a whole new gas line on Main Street.
Again?
Why don't you
It's a
send,
question for the village administrator and the board. of
Yes,
trustees.
but,
Yeah.
but if the architectural review board feels strongly about it, I would suggest you
I do.
make a statement.
I'm in favor.
Yes, that's enough.
have one here from Buddha Asian? No? Okay. We'll put to the, are they coming or no? We didn't get anything from
I've
them.
got new plans,
Okay.
so I would continue.
Motion to continue 55 Livingstone Avenue. Yeah, your seconds. Unanimous. 20 Laurel Hill Road, please.
Good evening, everyone. Matthew Cordon, the architect for the 20 Laurel Hill Road installation of 2 new windows along the west elevation of the property. These 2 windows are proposed to match the existing windows that are already on the property. They're casement Anderson windows. And just want to get to the elevation.
Matthew,
Yes, sir.
I think we reviewed the application. Anybody has a comment?
Yes.
When we approve it?
It's on the right side, facing the house?
Yes, it's on the, yes, it's on the right side of the house facing it, so it would be
On the driveway side?
no, it's actually on the opposite side.
On the opposite
Yeah,
side?
yeah, yeah. So, I mean, the idea is just to bring some more light into what's
Yeah,
kind
no,
of
of
the
course.
informal parlor,
I
right?
think this is a perfectly clear application, and, I don't, are there any neighbors here that appear to be, any comments from you? No, motion to approve as submitted, yeah, your seconds,
Great, thanks.
thank
All right.
you.
Thanks for getting me home early, guys.
Yeah, well, we should have, 80 Buena Vista Drive. 82 Buena Vista.
Hi, I'm Michael LaHaye, 82 Buttons Drive. You should have our plans. We just want to put a gate at the top of our driveway.
Looks compliant to me, and,
Yes.
any issues? Motion to approve this as submitted. Second, unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you, for your patience.
Thank you.
Nice plan.
Yeah, very nice plan.
Very nice plan.
Oh, thank you.
26 Palisade Street.
Good evening, Dave Pearson, 426 Palisade Street. We came through this board in the past, but never acted and got a building permit. So we're just looking to pick up what we left behind and get the building permit this time.
Are there any changes to this site?
Not a bit.
Not a bit or not at all?
Not at all, sir. We're gonna try to bury the wires
That one we wouldn't find.
on the property.
Any, okay, motion to reapprove?
Thank you very much.
Unanimous, thank you.
Good luck.
Back to 51 Grandview. Motion to continue 51 Grandview to the next meeting. Unanimous to continue. It doesn't appear. Didn't do a full analysis. And we have some minutes.
Oh, wait, you got it.
This is the last meeting. Yes, we continue 51. We are all. Well, yes, I guess that's my, that would be my, I was gonna get through the whole thing and then.
This is written strangely. Number 4 is illuminating yellow panels in purple color. Number 4, Livingston Avenue, Lomax, and I put those.
Well, yeah, we approved the signage, but we didn't approve the lighting. So we approved the sign type and color, but we said no, we said they hadn't.
It's very peculiar because
I would like to revise item number 1 in the minutes to reflect the reason for the denial. Maybe a bit more detail. I think that application should just a little more of the record.
Okay. What would you like to say?
Why don't I send a note to Liz and can we do that, or do I have to state it in?
Well, you're supposed to write a denial letter
I will.
and file it with Liz.
Maybe you can say,
30 days,
I mean,
30 days, within 30 days after the denial.
My,
So if you wanna change, if you wanna add something to the minutes, Liz is gonna say, if you said it there, then, and it's not here, then yeah, you could ask to have it added, but you can't really edit minutes.
no, I understand that.
There was a mistake.
If the minutes are referenced down the road, there's just very little to go on here. This tape, I mean, the tape is there, and just, precedent wise, I don't know how this has generally been addressed.
Well, the minutes aren't there. I mean, they could go back and they can foil the tape and get the complete tape. And they can ask for your denial letter.
Okay, let me think about this. I'd like to continue this to the next meeting, these minutes, and then we'll make a.
my opinion is, the moment that you say it's denied, there is a follow-up denial letter.
I understand, let's just.
Well, continue.
Continue.
the minutes.
Continue the minutes, the next hearing, give a second. Give a second. Motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.